Right then, welcome back to the channel. This is a preview of Manchester United versus Newcastle. I'm going to get into the tactics of how I believe this game is going to go down. I'm going to give you my starting 11. I've also got some bets from our friends at Parimatch UK as well. If you want to skip to any of those sections, then check the chapters below and you can do just that. Right then, let's talk about how this has suddenly become an absolutely massive fixture, and not just for the Newcastle fans, but actually for United as well. It's become a big game. There's a quick turnaround required after our draw away in Turkey midweek. And even though the draw was heartbreaking, there were interesting things happening in that game, which may be just something that's happening in Europe, specifically because I'm seeing so many games go the same way in Europe, and the Premier League is just a different kettle of fish altogether. And despite that draw, the form has been pretty good, actually. In our last 5, we've got 3 wins, 1 draw, and a single loss. Newcastle's is it's similar, actually. They got 1 loss, 2 draws, 2 wins. And we're starting to get our injured players back. Luke Shaw coming back, I think, has been a big boost for us. Weirdly, Kobbie Mainoo coming back and making his debut has been a huge boost for us. And hopefully that can increase United's levels. Newcastle, on the other hand, have got a bit of an injury crisis themselves. They're still able to put out a really strong 11, but the depth below that isn't too great. They could be missing. I think some of these might be back, but they could be missing this as well. They've got Harvey Barnes, Botman, Anderson, Jacob Murphy, Dan Burn, Callum Wilson. They've got Tonali out because of the gambling suspension as well. And it's going to be interesting to see who can cope with it. Now, my worry is at St James's Park, Newcastle are great, and that's a problem. I think that they're very, very good at home, and I think if you're going to do anything to them, it'll be on the road. But at home, I think they're almost flawless. So right now, probably would take a draw. I think a draw would probably be considered a decent result for United in this fixture right now, away from home. But Newcastle have levelled up in a big way under Eddie Howe. They are a hugely improving side. You are seeing a real level of play coming from them. You're seeing a real style, regardless of who features. And it's all about fast-paced transitional play. And you go, oh, those words remind me of Wednesday night. Yep. And they were a problem on Wednesday. And there'll be a problem on Saturday night for sure. But them lot have a huge emphasis on being defensively solid. So they want to transition one way very effectively, but they want to get back and compact the other way really effectively as well. And you're going to see them defend from the front. They initially shape up in a 4-3-3. That switches down to a 4-5-1 and gets compact. And it's a high pressing strategy that begins with their attackers. Formation shifts into a tight 4-5-1 formation during the defensive phase, and that is a defensive block that they're looking to put on. Attacking midfielders will press the opposition centre-half or the defensive midfielder, and then wingers will narrow in to close off any gaps, real narrow without the ball. They defend with a blend of being fluid and being solid, and you'll often see defenders actually stepping up from the usual line of engagement to track runners from deeper positions. And this is definitely a group and team well-drilled effort. Midfielders will do the same, and the attackers put work in for them too. That is the name of the game with Newcastle. It is work rate across the board. In possession, they do play with a little bit of risk, and rather than being a 4-3-3, what you will see is sometimes a 3-3-4, as Kieran Trippier likes, actually both fullbacks, but mainly Kieran Trippier likes to step up either into midfield or actually into the final third. And Trippier's found some unbelievable success doing that for Newcastle. He sits really high up the pitch. He sometimes gets to cheat, not always, but sometimes gets to cheat in defensive transition because he's in essential roaming right wing kind of position, and he prepares to receive the ball, delivers it early, delivers it into dangerous areas, massive outlet for them. And he is the danger man in that setup in a big way. Hence, majority of Newcastle's attacks come from that side. A lot of it down to Almiron's runs, the link up with Bruno Guimarães, and Joel Linton continues to excel in midfield. And he has done ever since changing from this bang average target man into like a genuinely good box-to-box midfielder. Wild, absolutely wild transition that has been. Dan Burns sometimes tucks in as the left side centre-half. That's not going to be something that we see this week. And that allows Trippier to play higher up on that side. and it's a fluid system that is drilled, and it doesn't matter if anyone knows what's coming, it's still drilled and it still works. When they get forward, they flood forward bodies into the box, and it's effective for them. I think the starting 11 is likely to be something along the lines of Pope, Trippier, Lascelles, Shah, Livramento, the young lad making his, well, it's not his debut now, obviously, but, a young lad finding his way in the Premier League there with Miley, Guimarães, Joe Linton, Almiron, Gordon, and Isak. And the star man in this, as much as I think, Isak, you give him shots, he scores goals. I think Gordon's an interesting one. And the reason why I went for Wan-Bissaka over the low in this, actually, because I think if you can clamp him, you're going to shut down a lot of their attacks. His output has been increasing down that left-hand side, but also on the right-hand side as well. He's absolutely lethal in transition. His dribbling's mint. His speed on and off the ball is ridiculous. He's very good 1v1. He's a capable striker of the ball if you give him the chance. And he really epitomizes what makes them good, which is energy, endeavour, speed and aggression. He's been a real quality signing for him. So he's the star man. My United 11, there's not a lot of places you can actually impact change in this United 11. And I think this is one of the things that people are incorrectly labelling at Erik ten Hag and putting a bit of blame on him for certain things. And I think it's wrong, because I think that what he can control and what he can't control are two vastly different things. And people will look at the selection and go, selection's crap, or the midfield's crap. Okay, well, I'll go through what I've got. So Onana in net, Shaw, Maguire, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka, right? The only option you've got to make in there is it Wan-Bissaka or is it Dalot? That's the only option you've got to make. Everybody else is injured. Varane is, I guess, a bit of an unknown quantity. We don't know what's going on there with Varane. But they're basically the four of the five that are available are going to play. And the one decision is does Dalot play or not? Okay. Well, is it over Shaw or is it over Wan-Bissaka? There's not a lot of options there. Okay. Cool. Central midfield, right? Who have we got in central midfield? Well, we've got Amrabat. Okay. We have got Mainoo, right? McTominay, right? We don't have Eriksen. We don't have Mount. We don't have Casemiro. Who else are you going to play in there? Dango? You're not, right? So you're talking, there's only one decision to make. Is it Amrabat or is it Scott McTominay? Now, I'd like to see Amrabat alongside Mainoo. I don't think he'll play Amrabat alongside Mainoo. I think he'll play McTominay for the legs. I don't think Amrabat looks fit at the moment. And I think if you're... Personally, I'd go with him, because I think him and Mainoo would look after the ball and they would get it to our creative players, and then you would start to put Newcastle under pressure. And I think you'd be effectively able to play through the press that is coming with Newcastle. But I don't think he's going to do that. And they're going to go through Mainoo, and I worry that they're going to fucking target Mainoo, because he's the only one you're going to be able to play it through. Bruno will be too high. McTominay will hide behind someone. Mainoo's the one that's going to come and collect the ball. You're making his job harder. Get Amrabat and Mainoo on the pitch, two players who can play football. Let them find each other and move the ball to the pitch. That's what we should be doing. I don't think that's what we're going to do. I think it's going to be Mainoo and McTominay. Wouldn't surprise me if it was Amrabat, McTominay, in all honesty, but honestly, it should be Mainoo. Mainoo should be starting every single minute of every single game at the moment. Bruno ahead of him. And again, we're not talking a prime Casemiro being available or a fit Christian Eriksen being available, or even the option of having something a little bit different and putting Mount in there. Those are options unavailable to Manchester United this moment. Bruno's going to play in the 10. Well, let's be real. It's not fucking Donny van der Beek, is it? Right? And then you've got 1.5 decisions to make in the wingers, right? You've got 3 that are starters generally. You've got Rashford, you've got Antony, and you've got Garnacho. I don't think Garnacho can start. I know he scored a great goal the other day, twice, but I still wouldn't start him. I think he tires in games. I think he's definitely better as an impact sub. And I think the speed of the game against Newcastle, I don't necessarily think matches up with him. If you want to say, I put Garnacho against Trippier and I make Trippier do some defensive work, okay, but the same goes for Marcus Rashford. And Marcus Rashford will not be this bad as he's been this season forever. And I think he goes with Antony and Rashford. I can make a case for Garnacho and Rashford. I think Anthony's the easier one to leave out of that trio, despite the fact it's Garnacho that I'm going to drop for this one. I don't think you've got much of a case to put Palestrian over any of the other three. That's the options that we're left with. Jadon Sancho is a myth at the moment. He doesn't exist. Greenwood doesn't play for Manchester United, and I don't think he ever will. So those are your options. So when people are criticising Erik ten Hag for either lack of substitutions or I don't think his selection was right, did he put Højlund in net? Because that's a valid criticism if he did. But if it's not, and then your options up front, Højlund or Martial. There's not, like, this team basically picks itself, and not because everyone's in good form. It's an awful situation to be in, trying to pick a team. But Højlund, and like I said, I go with Antony and Rashford. I think that's the team. And I don't sit here comfortably saying, well, you play that team, you beat them. I say you play that team, you might not get beat. But I also worry. I worry about if it's going to be a transitional game the same way it was on Wednesday. It's basically the same team as it was on Wednesday. And that's not good. Now, we had opportunities. If we're a little bit more clinical, we score some more goals. We're a little bit better defensively. We don't concede as many. But there was gaps all over the place. And Newcastle, I think, are a lot better than Galatasaray. So that's an issue for me. I think star man for United will be Mainoo. United needs someone to take the sting out of the game, someone to be controlling, someone to get their foot on the ball, someone to make intelligent decisions, and it's the 18-year-old with one game under his belt. I realise it sounds mental saying that. I stand exactly by it. Right then, as I said at the top of the show, we've got something special for you for Parimatch, and that is the chance to win a £50 free bet. They've launched their new completely free-to-game prediction football game called Hat Trick Hunt. Every week you get the chance to predict 3 scores from the Premier League, and with this free rewards for doing it. It's just 3. All you got to do is 3, and I'm getting close. I ain't got all 3 myself just yet, but you get all 3 correct. It's a £50 free bet, and it's totally free to play. So just go and have a play, right? And see how close you can get. This week, I am going for United and Newcastle 1-1. I feel like that's a likely score, but I also kind of hope that that's the score. I just don't see us getting a smash and grab. This team hasn't shown me they can do it with this manager. They haven't shown that they can play off the back foot, be compact, break out at the right moments and be clinical when we get the chances. We haven't done that yet. I'd love to see us add that to our repertoire, but it ain't there yet. Chelsea and Brighton, it's a mad game. Honestly, this might be the most entertaining game of the weekend. Brighton and Chelsea are toss-a-coin form at the moment, the pair of them. The fact it's at a bridge, I lean a little bit towards Chelsea. There's some talent in that squad, and I think the talent is carrying them through at the moment, and I'm going to go 2-1. I don't think either team is capable of a clean sheet at the moment. And then Manchester City Spurs. Now, 5 weeks ago, this is a hell of a contest. Right now, with the injury problems that Spurs have got, I think Manchester City steamroll them. It's not close, and it's not even a contest. And I'm going for 4-0 Manchester City. I think they're going to get absolutely smacked up. If you agree with my predictions, let me know in the comments. If you would like to get involved, check the link in the description. You've got to be over 18. T's and C's do apply. Thank you to Parimatch once again for sponsoring the preview. And if you log in, predict the correct score for each fixture displayed, submit your predictions. Prizes will include free bets and cash. The bonuses expire in 7 days. The credits are credited within 24 hours after the last event. Check the link in the description for the T's and C's. And if you're struggling, check out begambleaware.org. So how do you beat this team then? Or how do we get a result from this game? I think the first thing that Manchester United have to do is limit the turnovers. Against Galatasaray, it became a basketball game because we were trying risky things all the time. And I think this is that's why I could go and could easily argue for an Amrabat, Mainoo midfield pairing. Just 2 lads looking after it, right? Yes, you're going to miss that sort of crash bang wallop that you get and the final third presence and chaos that exists with Scott McTominay. But you would look after the ball more and you would limit the transitions, and you might begin to frustrate Newcastle into playing a little bit more of a risky and offensive game. And if you do that, that opens it up for the pacey players that we've got. And I think Højlund could be a real problem against them. How efficient we are playing out from the back will determine how this game goes. And yeah, Newcastle can be very explosive and they build up a bit of a head of steam. And listen, this game last season, they absolutely smashed us, and we cannot allow that to happen again. I would also say utilize that left channel. Trippier is one of the most dangerous players, and he takes up an extremely high starting position. He's not as good defensively as offensively, and one way for him to alleviate that is to have a lower and lower and lower starting position and pin him back almost. And that's why I went with Shaw and Rashford. It's the relationship those two have got, that telepathy those two have got, the teamwork those two have got down that side. It's not something we've managed to see of late. So I would like to see them rekindle that effectiveness down that left-hand side, really put it on Trippier, make him do the work going the other way, and then you limit what they've got going forward. I think you've got to match them physically. They are physically a very strong side. They have a big advantage from set pieces, and you've got to match them in the air. Luckily, that does suit Harry Maguire. So he needs to get his absolute massive napper on as much as he can. And I'd like us, I mean, if we could go there and keep a clean sheet, that's a phenomenal result, whether we score or not. Because I think Onana now has to get confidence built back up and see where it takes him. But that's how I see this one going. Let me know in the comments if you agree. Please go and check out our sponsor and get involved on that prediction game and see if you can win yourself a free £50 bet. And I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.